More people are getting into Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop role-playing games than ever before. And if you're interested in getting into Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the brand new D&D Essentials Kit is a great place to start.
Today we're going to crack open the box, we're going to take a look at all the content inside, and tell you how to get started with this amazing game.
My name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes. Welcome to our channel where we discuss everything Dungeons & Dragons, including advice for dungeon masters and guides for players new and old.
We upload new videos every Thursday, so please subscribe to our channel so that you never miss an episode.
So we've just picked up the brand new D&D Essentials Kit, which just finally came out in Canada after being available for a couple months in the United States at Target. We've opened it up, gone through the adventure, and we're going to take you through what's inside.
There's a lot to look at, so let's get rolling.
The Dungeons & Dragons Essentials Kit has just dropped at game stores this September 2019, and it is available for about $25 US. You can also get it online and at Target, incidentally. And it is aimed as a beginner product for new players and new dungeon masters to Dungeons & Dragons. It contains a short adventure, The Dragon of Icespire Peak, all the rules for character creation, and the basic rules of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
It's a great way for a new group of players to get into the game, or if you're a veteran player who's looking to make the jump to DM for the first time, might be a great way to get started as well.
Well, let's see if that's true. Let's open it up.
So right off the bat, one of the first things that you get in the Essentials Kit is a set of dice. And that's probably going to be the most important thing that you have for playing Dungeons & Dragons.
Good red set of dice.
I like the red. The last set was blue.
Yeah.
From the starter set. This one is red. What I like about this set of dice, really interesting, instead of the standard 7 dice, they give you a few more. They give you 2 d20s, 4 d6s, and one of all the other standard dice that you would usually get.
I do think that having extra d20s is really important, especially if you're not planning on buying any more dice. Although I do think that most new groups are going to go out and buy their own sets of dice right away.
It's kind of a thing. You want a dice set that really speaks to you, but some people might just like these dice.
Yeah. I think, well, with a group of 4 or 5 people, you could share this set of dice. I don't know why you would want to.
No. If you're getting prepared to run everything in here, you might want to get a few sets of dice to share around the table, or encourage your players to get their own set.
What is this for?
I believe that this little box here is for all the cards that come in here that you can pop out, and then they go in there just for safekeeping.
So it's not a dice box, it's a storage box?
It's a storage box for all of the little pieces that come in here, which we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So a little storage box. As all boxes should contain, we have a flyer for more D&D stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, no, it's more. You actually get the digital version of the player's handbook on D&D Beyond for 50% off with this code. And then you get the full adventure online as well, and higher level adventures that have come out exclusively on D&D Beyond. So there's actually a great digital expansion to what's in this box. I'm really surprised that Wizards of the Coast hasn't started doing something like this already for all the other books, and I'm glad that they started here.
I think that some of the things that they've done in the Essentials Kit really speak to what I would like to see in future modules. Yeah. The next thing we have in the box is another really handy piece, and that is a map.
What is it? It is a map of...
Map of the Sword Coast.
That is not the entire Sword Coast.
No, map of the Sword Coast that is relevant to this module.
So it's the northern part of the Sword Coast.
Yeah, but you get a nice little decent map that you can show to your players to show them where they are and where they're going. On the other side, the hometown of Fandalen. This is kind of the central hub of where most of this adventure is going to take place.
So the Essentials Kit happens in the same town as the starter set. Next up, so we have a Dungeon Master screen. It is a flimsy Dungeon Master screen.
Yeah, it's not going to be as sturdy, and it might blow over on your table, but it's in the Essentials Kit.
The inside information, though, is exactly the same as the full-size screen that is available. Oh, I guess this is the full landscape version of the artwork on the box, too.
I actually really like the artwork here, how it starts with your adventuring party off in the woods, and it slowly trails into Icespire Peak and the dragon.
No, actually it's not. It's a completely different piece of art.
Yeah.
It is not the art on the box.
Yeah, it's a different piece of art.
Oh, nice.
With an adventuring party heading towards their goal.
Very evocative. I like that. I mean, considering that most other Dungeon Master screens are $20 on their own, I I guess it's fine that this is so flimsy. I would have preferred a real cardstock one.
Yeah, but for the price you're paying for this, including a Dungeon Master screen for your DM, that's just something to get you started. If you're getting into the game, this is somewhere to start, and then you're going to say, you know what I need? Another Dungeon Master screen. And then you'll probably invest in one.
Yeah, and straight up, like, because this is the reincarnated version of the Dungeon Master screen, the information on it is excellent. It has the things on it like obscured areas, travel pace, encounter distance, and all the conditions and actions in combat. So for a new Dungeon Master, this is really handy.
Next up, of course, we have the adventure module itself, the Dragon of Icespire Peak, which is an adventure that takes your players from levels 1 to 6.
So we're going to put this aside for now and talk about the adventure itself at the end of this video. Oh, and then we have the rulebook.
A handy little simplified version of the essential rules for Dungeons & Dragons.
Glancing through this has all the rules for character creation for 5 of the Dungeons & Dragons classes. You've got the Bard, the Cleric, the Fighter, the Rogue, and the Wizard. And interestingly enough, they've included 2 archetypes for each of the classes. So they don't have all the archetypes that are available in the Player's Handbook and Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So the Cleric has the Life Domain and the War Domain. The Rogue has the Arcane Trickster and the Thief. The Fighter has the Champion as well as the Eldritch Knight. And I think they've even put 2 in here for the Wizard as well. Yeah, they put in the School of Evocation and the School of Transmutation. And finally, for the Bard, they put in both the College of Lore and the College of Valor. So you get lots of options for character creation, because also the 4 basic races, humans, elves, dwarves, and halflings are all in here too.
With the races that they've chosen to put in this book, you kind of stick to that core Lord of the Rings mythos of what the major races that are presented in those stories are.
Yeah, one thing that I will say though with the classes is the classes only go up to level 6, so everything from level 7 to 20 is not included in this book. And interestingly enough, I'm also looking at the spells that are included for the Bard, the Cleric, and the Wizard, and it's not even the full selection of spells that are available to all of these classes in the basic rules at all. They only give 4 spells at 3rd level for the Bard. So you could very easily expand this content a little bit just by going online and downloading the basic rules to give more spells to your characters. And of course, as soon as you pick up the Player's Handbook, you've got all the other options there as well.
I would also say if you're not a first-time DM and you're planning to run this for a group, you could easily open it up to all of the races and classes available. And that would still work with this setting.
So there are no out-and-out pre-generated characters, though, in this.
A lot of players, I think, really get excited about imagining up their own characters. So having somebody hand you a sheet is a great way to get into the game, which is what's presented in the starter set. But a lot of people who hear about D&D might be excited to imagine up their own fantasy character.
Yeah, at the same time, having pre-generated characters that fulfill the major archetypes that are possible with the rules presented is a really handy way to get people actually playing the game. So I think that you could go both ways with this. You could download some pre-made characters that are available online for free and use those and present those to your players. And if they're not interested in them, then they make their own character. Because there's going to be a player out there that just wants to play a human fighter. And in that case, the pre-generated character is perfect for them.
Now we come to some really cool parts of this Essentials Kit that I almost wish all modules had something like this in there. We get cards, and there's a whole bunch of different cards in here. These cards are actually designed for if you are playing the campaign with 1 DM and 1 player. There's rules in here for sidekicks, and we have these little character cards for each of the sidekicks that you can choose. And on the back are the rules and roleplay options for each of those sidekicks.
So why not just use these cards if you have a bigger group as the NPCs and change the names and personality traits of the NPCs in the adventure so that you can use these cards even if you're not using the sidekick rules?
I'm not going to lie, when I first opened it up, that's 100% what I thought this was. I thought it was going to be all the prominent NPCs. When I found out it was just the sidekicks, I was a little let down because I was excited to hand these out to my group of players. But you could easily take these and work them into your campaign as NPCs. And that way, you have these little character cards to present to your players at the table.
So they do have the Sidekick rules in the rules, which are literally 1 page long. They're essentially pre-generated characters that the players play alongside their main ones, but I guess the idea is that you as the DM are supposed to roleplay the Sidekick.
Which kind of goes against one of our big things that we don't like in D&D, and that's where the DM also plays a player character, which can be a little challenging sometimes, especially for a new DM who's focusing on learning to be a DM. It might be a little challenging to try to play the characters as well. I would use these kind of as secondary characters. I wouldn't have them be prominent in the story. They might just show up to help in combat. They might not role play a whole lot.
I think one other good approach to use the Sidekick rule is that you as the Dungeon Master role play the Sidekick, but the players get to control what they do in combat.
That's an easy way to help your players learn different types of ways to interact with the game.
Yeah, the problem with that is that for new players, that's a lot to manage.
New players and new DMs might want to be hesitant, even though that seems like it was the core concept here is, oh, I don't have a large group of friends to play with. It's just me and my buddy. Let's throw in a few sidekicks to help out. But yeah, that will add a lot of complexity to either the DM or the player side.
It's just more micromanagement.
Next up, we have these lovely magic item cards that come on 4 separate sheets, all with various magic items that you find throughout the adventure. And I find this really handy. If you're not using some sort of digital format like D&D Beyond, it's really helpful for the players to be able to pick these up, look at them, set them down in front of them, and understand what magic items they have and what their uses are. We even have cards here for potions of healing and different simple items as well as the more complex magical items.
And then we also have cards for the conditions. So that means that if a player gets charmed or knocked unconscious or whatever, you can hand them the card and that tells them the rules. So this is a lot of extra rules text that is for one of those fiddly things in the rules that actually kind of useful. Like, I would buy these if I could get them on their own.
Even as an experienced DM running the game for experienced players, I find condition cards to be really helpful because sometimes the players are focusing a lot on what they want to do with their turn that they forget that they're poisoned. And I, as the DM running so many different monsters, I forget they're poisoned too. So having a card to place on the table to show everybody exactly what's going on with that player can be really helpful.
Do they just give you one of each condition? Or are there multiples? It's just one of each.
Just one of each. So that is the problem, that if you have multiple players
Yeah.
suffering from the same condition, they're going to have to share the card.
One of the last things on here is that it just has a quick card of combat step by step.
I almost missed that.
Yeah. So a really quick card that you can hand out that just tells them what they can do on their turn in combat. So that's sweet. I might photocopy that.
That's really helpful for brand new players because the number one thing is when it comes down to combat and a brand new player's like, what do?
That is an awesome thing to give to new players. That really elevates it, I think, because new players need something like that.
So next we have these initiative cards, which are numbered 1 through 9, and not really sure how you would use these.
I wonder if the rulebook says anything about it. So the rules for initiative are the exact same as they are in the rules, but I think it's using these to say that the DM ranks the combatants in order from the one with the highest from the one with the lowest. So I guess that you give the cards out in the order of initiative. So the person who goes first gets the number 1 card, the person who goes second gets the number 2 card, and so on and so forth.
That almost seems more complex to me than just writing down the number that they rolled in ascending order and then going from there.
I guess. I mean, it's visual, and visual aids always help. Like, we use initiative trackers that are the flags and the towers from Axe and Shield.
True.
They work really, really well. So having a visual aid does help. I don't know how many people will use these.
I think one thing that we might be looking at is we're both experienced DMs who have many different ways of tracking initiative. If you're a brand new group, this might be a good way to get started, where it's like, I don't know how to track initiative. Here's some numbered cards that I can use to just have everybody keep track in their minds visually on what's going on.
So then beyond that, we got a bunch of blank character sheets so that you can fill them out. And the last thing that we have in the box are more cards for the quests in the adventure, which is pretty cool because the adventure's core mechanic, the whole organizing principle behind Dragon of Icespire Peak, is a bounty board in Fandalen. So you can post and hand out the actual quest notice that is on the bounty board and give it to the players, which I think is awesome.
I also just really love that because there's so many times that players will be on a quest and you take 2 or 3 sessions and then they're like, what was our main objective again? And also this tells you exactly how much gold they're going to get for completing that objective. So it allows you to lay them out in front of your players. They get to read each one and choose which one from the bounty board they're going to grab and go on next.
I'm really looking forward to seeing members of the community taking these quest cards and making beautiful printouts and like parchment style versions of them. Because like this is great on its own, especially if you don't have the time to do something fancy like that. But I guarantee you very soon there will be people that are making like a full bounty board for the quests that are in this adventure to give to the players as a handout.
I might even make a board and just stick these to it so that they can walk up and actually pull them off the board.
Oh,
and
that
see
would be
what's
so
going
much
on.
fun. Yeah, actually go and get like a cork board and some tacks or nails and drive them in, and then the players can pull them off the board. So overall, the starter set's pretty meaty. For $25, you've got everything you need to make your first characters. You've got a set of dice, tons of handouts, the core rules of D&D. I think that with the adventure itself, which we'll discuss in a moment, I think that you've got enough here to play Dungeons & Dragons for weeks, if not months. So it's a pretty good buy right off the bat for that alone. But let's talk about the adventure Dragon by Spire Peak and what we thought of it.
Full disclosure, Monty and I haven't had the chance to run Dragon of Ice Spire Peak yet. That's something that we are going to be doing in the coming months. And we're probably going to do a full review once we've completed it. We plan to run it for groups of new players and see how that goes. But we've both read through the module, and we're going to discuss our thoughts on what we liked and what we didn't.
The basic premise of Dragon of Icespire Peak is beautiful and classic in its simplicity. Your first level characters arrive in the town of Fandalen to rumors of a dragon haunting the countryside, devouring livestock, chasing people, and destroying farmsteads. This white dragon, Cryovane, is the ultimate antagonist of the adventure, which the players will probably be able to take on at some point once they gain a few levels under their belt. But before then, they've got a bunch of quests and errands to help out the people of Fandalen.
What I love about the way that this is structured is everything feeds into the major plot of Cryovane appearing in the area. He moved into a castle on top of Icespire Peak, forcing the orc tribe that lived in those mountains out, which made them come down the mountains, which is causing mayhem all around the local area. This feeds into all of the early adventures, as the players start to discover that everything's tied together and all linking back to Cryovane.
Yeah, so the adventure itself gives you a breakdown of the town of Fandalen itself. It's very sparse, though, just giving you the core elements of the inn and the mayor and how to interact with some of the more prominent NPCs. And then it dives right into the quests and the different locations that you're going to visit. The way that it's set up is that the notice board has 3 quests to begin with, and then the players, once they've completed 2 of the 3, see more get posted afterwards, and then more one more time. And I guess the whole structure is supposed to be that once they've completed enough quests, they can figure out where the dragon's lair is and then confront the dragon. And I think that by reading through it, it seems like there's a couple extra side quests that are hidden as well that you only find about by completing some of the other quests.
And that's actually another thing that I really liked is the notice board for finding your quests is the most obvious way to gain levels and go on adventures. But there's also rumors that happen around Fandalen and happen as you go on these quests. And these rumors can trigger the imagination of your players to say, what's in those ruins that were mentioned that we never went to explore? And there's actually adventures written in the book for the ancient ruins or the magical circle in the woods that they go to. And if they decide to go there, you have everything in the book to run those as well.
In total, well, there are 9 quest cards that you can hand out to the players. There are 14 dungeon or wilderness or ruin locations for them to explore in the adventure that are fully detailed, and several other smaller locations that they can visit as well, in addition to the town of Fandalen itself. The adventure also assumes that you're going to be using the milestone system for character advancement and not experience points. because reading through the adventure, there's actually not a lot of monsters and combat encounters. There are many of these locations where the problem is not something that the players can solve through combat, but they have to think outside the box how to do it. One of the early quests in this adventure sees the players encounter a creature that is probably too difficult for them to defeat at their current level, and so they need to think outside the box for how to deal with the situation.
I do actually enjoy this because this pushes the players away from the classic murder hobo mentality that happens with a lot of new players of just these people who wander around the wilderness killing everything they find. Instead, they're almost forced to interact with people, find out clues, solve problems in new and interesting ways that are really exciting for why we love Dungeons and Dragons in the first place.
Unfortunately, while those all are possible with this adventure, I don't think the adventure does a very good job of explaining how to handle the more subtle parts of its content. Nor does it really detail how to handle the combat encounters or roleplay the various NPCs that you encounter. One of the very cool quests in this module involves helping out a village of gnomes to find out why some of them have gone missing. It is a classic mystery adventure.
It's actually one of my favorite ones in the book.
I love it. It doesn't give you any help about how to actually amp up the mystery. And the gnomes that are involved doesn't tell you much about their personalities at all. It doesn't tell you anything beyond the players might be able to go poke this area with sticks.
As someone who has DM'd for many years, I read that part of the module and was very inspired and created the NPCs in my head, what their personalities were, and actually got very excited to run that chapter. However, not every new DM is going to be able to do that. A lot of the adventures in this book have a lot of space for imagination to fill in gaps, but if you do not have the ability to come up with that imagination, or you're brand new to D&D, you might not be able to fill in those gaps yourself.
As an adventure, Dragon of Icespire Peak has a fantastic skeleton. It just lacks some of the meat on its bones that would flesh it out and give a completely brand new Dungeon Master the tools they need to succeed. If you're an experienced Dungeon Master, you're going to love running this adventure because, as Kelly said, it gives you so many opportunities to inject your own personality and creativity into it and make it a memorable experience for a group of new players. If you're an experienced player looking to run the game for the very first time, you'll probably also have those creative impulses and be able to see where you need to embellish the details as well. But if you're a brand new DM who's never played Dungeons & Dragons before and are in that position of running the game for the very first time, I think Lost Mines of Phandelver might be the better one to run.
Dragon of Icespire Peak is a great open concept campaign that can really inspire your players to make their own choices and go where they want to go, and really gets that feel of Dungeons and Dragons in it. But it does require a little bit of imagination from the DM, whereas the starter set, Lost Mine of Phandelver, does kind of paint a more elaborate picture of what you are going to be doing as a DM in the campaign. What I do like about Icespire Peak is that they did include additional modules that you can add onto this so that once you finish it, you can continue going with your players. As Monty said, if you are just jumping into the DM seat for the first time, but you have a history with role-playing games, this might be an excellent choice to inspire you and push you into a new world of DMing. But the starter set might be a better choice if you're a brand new group sitting down for the first time to be introduced to what Dungeons & Dragons is. So this has been a look at the Dungeons & Dragons Essentials Kit. If you've read through it or played it yourself, tell us about it in the comments below.
If you're enjoying our show, consider supporting the channel on Patreon. You can find out how by following the links in the description below.
And if you want to see us playing Dungeons & Dragons, you can check out our live play Dungeons of Drakkenheim, which airs Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. You can find all the previous episodes in a playlist right up over here.
And if you're a new player making your very first character, be sure to check out all of our class guides for D&D 5e right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel so that you never miss an episode.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time
in the dungeon.